Greetings family, I hope you're well. Welcome to the Pan-African Drama. My name is Acquitted, and I'll be sharing with you my 10-point analysis of the final episode of the BBC drama Undercover. Now I'm actually in a Hackney Park pretending it's a forest like the final scene, and I want to at least start with two good things that I can remember. And the first part was Dan didn't die. Let's face it, we all loved Dan. We all knew from the very first episode that it was going to be set up for something, so the fact that he made it through to the end was very, very nice to see. Number two, Amaya was very good in the Supreme Court. And I think we have to acknowledge that. She used her 20 minutes so well. She managed to challenge the US justice system by invoking the history of African enslavement. She was able to talk about Thomas Jefferson to put the judges in place. We really loved that. Number three, Lola and Dan. Now I liked the Dan character, in fact I liked him a lot. So it really peeved me off that very little was made of how immoral it was for a young female undercover officer to take sexual advantage of a young man. He actually wanted an innocent wrestle, and 2-2 he ended up on a bed naked with a 22-year-old police officer, or 22-year-old Lola, who later searched through their drawers, taking photographs of private documents. Now this reminds me, do you remember in episode 1, we're exposed to the sight of not one but two African butts within the space of around 15 minutes for no reason. I mean, I don't even know what that was about. But if we think about the situation with Lola, when Nick saw her snooping through, I thought, there's no way he could really challenge her, was there? I mean, what could he say to her? Oh, hi, nice to meet you, I'm DC Undercover Johnson. I've already searched that drawer. What, you on the job too? Nah, that just wouldn't have cut it, would it? But it's important to remember that in 2014, the very real Crown Prosecution Services and the DPP actually chose not to prosecute any of the so-called UCs, as they name them in the programme, stating that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute the officers for offences, and that was including rape and sexual assault. So the fact that this programme really made little of Dan's abuse, I think was a big no-no. Anyway, number 4. This was the most extreme case of Scooby-Doo-itis since Bobby Ewing came out of the shower in Dallas. Okay, so Nick tells his plan to Dan. Dan then tells, well, everybody. Nick heads off to the forest with the journalist and told to make photos of his orchestrated execution. Maya and those pesky kids run through the forest. I mean, she then trips. Dan keeps running and a naughty officer pulls out his gun, and he decides his secret will be safer not by shooting Nick. No, and we've got to get this straight. He decides that by shooting his son in the shoulder would actually be a wiser thing to do. So we have a former British police officer walking around with a loaded gun, planning to murder another former undercover officer who's actually, he suspects, has tipped off everybody. And he shoots Dan? Really? Okay, number 5. This is a very serious one. He deserved it. In other words, a dead brother did it. That's what they kept on saying. Or was it Mir who did it, which Rudy was framed for murdering over, who deserved to die? In which case, if it was the mayor who deserved it, then why did Nick mash up his arms so he could hide a recorder in a cast to get some flimsy evidence which he could have leaked to the press, but instead destroyed the recording? Does that make sense? He destroyed it because he thought Michael did it and he deserved to die? Which one is it? If Michael deserved to die in custody because he killed the mayor, then why not save the recording as evidence to free Rudy? And if it's the other way round, I mean, if the mother knew about her son's drug smuggling and all her nonsense and murder, then why did she want Maya to go all the way to the top when investigating? Nah. This all stank. It didn't make sense. And more importantly, so what I didn't like about this part of the episode is the way that the activist and his mother were being portrayed as criminals through and through. From willing drug smugglers, they use the term drug mules, to murderers or murderer. It reminded me of the way, basically when the state likes to smear the reputation of anyone who's been murdered by the police, and in the immediate aftermath, we start hearing stories about how bad they were. And you think I'm making this up? Well, think about Joy Gardner, or Frank Ogboro, or Rocky Bennett, or Sean Rigg, or Colin Roach. Now, that whispered line, he deserved it, undid much good of the series, despite its nod to recognising institutional racism. He deserved it. Didn't check that. Which leads on to point 6. the tale of police redemption. Now this carries on from the other point that I made. I'm very unhappy about the way all the police officers escaped prosecution and were supposed to accept that as a happy ending. Now Dan, who's clearly our moral compass, was first used, or should I say abused, to redeem Nick, who in my eyes should be out on the streets with his fake crocodile tears. What Nick did in spying on his wife for the government wasn't okay. He didn't do it for love or lust even. That I could possibly even understand. But no, he betrayed his family, his father, who he claimed he loved, and his community for queen, country and paycheck. Not even for religion or principle. Oh, and his poor handler. This guy is depicted as being so sad because he has to deal with child abusers, and now all he has to do is keep Nick happy. That's his job, keep Nick happy. Well, how does it excuse his collaboration in the murder of another officer? You think we forgot about that? And how does the DPP, sorry Maya, but how do you not invoke them under the doctrine of joint enterprise? Now I know some of the politicians were taken away for questioning in the end, and it all seemed very, nice and Scooby-Doo in the closing scenes. But why should they escape? Admittedly, this is an entertaining piece of drama. But should it really be reinforcing the idea that the police should be immune from prosecution? How did the Scotsman get away? He shot Dan. Nah. Look, we all paid for this BBC production. I'm not happy about funding state propaganda. That ending with the police redemption clearly is nonsense. Point 7 now. Rudy Jones grandstanding. Now, let me be clear. When Rudy spoke, it was a big moment. It wasn't as good as Caesar's "No" in a Planet Yates reboot, but well-timed nonetheless. But my issue with it, though, is that I believe, really in failing to tell Maya that he could speak in advance so that they could discuss his case and strategy, he kind of undermined her. It was kind of as if he was saying to her, I don't really trust you to do a good job, so I'm going to take over, dear. You sit down while I run things. It stank a little bit of male ego. Okay, number 8. The magical negro or noble savage plotlines. Now, if we think about the African-American judge with her statement about support for the death penalty being inhumane and cringeworthy un-American, she was on point, and dramatically it was very well timed. But intellectually, I think it was pretty patronising to viewers. It's an approach of writing for African characters that follows what Spike Lee has referred to as the magical negro theory. And this is where the noble African character, mystically helps the poor confused Europeans to see the folly of their way. Now I know not everybody gets that, and go to Google, check it out, but in our universe, in the real world, it denies the fact that there are some, and if not many, in all cases like this, where the type of sister that will be sitting and accepted on the ranks of Supreme Court, sadly should be more likely to side against the community and justice on our behalf to prove that she arrived on merit and wasn't still ghetto. Now think Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell, Amos and Lammy, Una and Shaka. None of them have any grassroots credibilities, hence we forever see them on our screens, even Question Time or in the newspapers. Now magical Negroes are everywhere. And then number 9, how come Rudy went free? I thought the case was about blocking the use of lethal injections. How was Rudy acquitted? On what grounds? Yes, we learned that Michael did it in the whispered tones, but how was it that he was freed? On what evidence? If everyone except Nick and Maya, and maybe Dan, knew the truth, then why was Rudy in jail? It makes no sense. Number 10. Whitewashing the behaviour of real undercover police. Now it's important to note that this series also whitewashes over the heinous behaviour of real undercover cops. There's an excellent article on The Guardian, I've forgotten who wrote it, covering this, so please check it out. But the reality of the situation is that Nick and his tears at the end and redemption, it doesn't run like that. And there you have it, my review of the Undercover finale. Overall, it was a very enjoyable series with an anticlimactic, incoherent conclusion. Now, there are rumours of a second series flying around where it will go bigger. We heard that term. It was a fun journey, but I ask, no more, please. No more. Thank you for watching, and may the ancestors guide and protect you. Ashe.